Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear viewers and listeners, Assalamu alaikum. In this monologue, I am going to discuss the act of divorce between the spouses as it is explained in the glorious Koran. In simple words, divorce is the act of dissolution of a marriage between the spouses for any reason. The important elements of this monologue include the maturity period of a divorce, mutual rights and obligations of spouses in a divorce, different types of divorces allowed in Islam, and summary of the monologue. Like the institution of marriage, there are several practices that have been adopted by Muslims in case of a divorce, although such practices are in direct conflict with clear commands of God as pronounced in the Quran. The purpose of this monologue is to educate interested Muslims about all aspects of a divorce that are explained in Quran for their guidance. People must understand the difference between irrevocable and irrevocable divorce. Irrevocable divorce is one that can be cancelled between the spouses, while an irrevocable divorce is one that cannot be cancelled. There is a misconception in the minds of people that a written divorce is always an irrevocable divorce. However, the glorious Quran does not command that a written divorce is irrevocable. Oral or written mode of divorce does not affect the status of a divorce in the sight of God. Chapter 2, verse 229 of Quran explains the revocable divorce in the following words. Divorce can happen twice and then wives either be kept on in an acceptable manner or released in a good way. This verse makes it clear that in the sight of God, a divorce can only occur twice between the spouses. These two divorces are revocable, implying that if the husband wants to take back his wife, he may do so without an intervening marriage. The irrevocable divorce is explained in chapter 2, verse 230 in the following words. If a husband redivorces his wife after the second divorce, she will not be lawful for him until she has taken another husband. If that one divorces her, there will be no blame if she and the first husband return to one another, provided they feel that they can keep within the bounds set by God. These are God's bounds, which He makes clear for those who know. In the light of command of this verse, if a husband divorces his wife for the third time, it is deemed as an irrevocable divorce in the sight of God. The husband cannot take back his wife unless she marries another man and he divorces the wife on his own. Only then the former husband may remarry his wife. So God makes it clear that divorce is not a joke, and if a man adopts a casual attitude towards pronouncing divorce on different occasions, he must understand that after pronouncing a divorce on third occasion, he cannot take back or remarry his wife unless another man marries her and divorces her with his sweet will. This is indeed a great lesson for any prudent person to desist from pronouncing divorce as a casual activity. People may be interested to know what types of divorce are explained in Quran and how do they differ from each other. The following four types of divorce are explained in Quran for the guidance of mankind. 1. Divorce pronounced by the husband. 2. Wife seeking a divorce, also called khula. 3. A vow on the part of husband to abstain from sexual intercourse that may result in a divorce, also called ilah. 4. Divorce taking place when the husband declares his wife resembling like his mother and does not offer atonement for such an act. In this monologue, all these types of divorce and their consequences will be explained in the light of wisdom provided by Quran for the guidance of mankind. An important question in relation to a divorce is, what is the maturity period of a divorce? The maturity period implies the time period that must elapse before a divorce becomes complete and final in the sight of God. There could be three possible situations where the maturity period for a divorce may be different. The first situation is where the wife is within the age of her menstrual cycle and the divorce has been pronounced by the husband. The second situation is that wife has either passed her age of menstrual cycle or she has not attained the age of menstrual cycle and husband has pronounced a divorce. And the third situation is that at the time of pronouncement of divorce, the wife is pregnant. The glorious Quran provides complete guidance for all three situations so that mankind may take heed. If the wife is in her age of menstrual cycle and the husband has pronounced divorce, the waiting period is 3 menstrual cycles. This fact is explained in chapter 2, verse 228 of Quran in the following words. Divorced women must wait for 3 monthly periods before remarrying. So it is clear beyond any doubt that the waiting period for a woman who is in her age of menstrual cycle is 3 monthly periods. After the completion of this period, one divorce will be completed. On another occasion, chapter 65, verse 1 of the Quran reads, Prophet, when any of you intend to divorce women, do so at a time when their prescribed waiting period can properly start, and calculate the period carefully. Be mindful of God, your Lord. Do not drive them out of their homes, nor should they themselves leave, unless they commit a flagrant indecency. These are the limits set by God. Whoever oversteps God's limits wrongs his own soul. For you cannot know what new situation God may perhaps bring about. This verse makes it clear that a divorce cannot be pronounced in heat of emotion because an emotionally charged person cannot think clearly and in a prudent manner. A divorce may be pronounced only when the husband has made up his mind that the marriage relationship cannot continue for any substantial reason. So the husband must wait for the time when the prescribed waiting time of a woman can be properly calculated. This will serve two purposes. Firstly, the husband may by that time change his mind to divorce if the difference was not serious. And secondly, it would be easy to calculate 3 monthly cycles of wife. This practice is mandatory for all believers, and any husband who ignores it is guilty of the commission of sin in the sight of God. This verse further reinforces the fact that the waiting period for completion of divorce is 3 menstrual cycles. This verse also commands that neither a husband may expel a wife from his home after pronouncing a divorce unless she commits an open indecency, nor she may leave his home, for God may bring a more favorable situation during the course of 3 months intervening period. However, it is poignant to note that most of the spouses in our time never adhere to this command of God, and either the wife leaves the home or she is expelled by her husband after pronouncing a divorce. This hasty act on the part of spouses prevents any chances of reconciliation between them. In case the wife has passed her age of menstrual cycle or she has yet not attained the age of menstrual cycle, the waiting period after pronouncement of a divorce is 3 months. This fact is explained in chapter 65, verse 4 of Quran in the following words. If you are in doubt, the period of waiting will be 3 months for those women who have ceased menstruating and for those who have not menstruated. This verse makes it explicitly clear that a divorce will be complete after 3 months of its pronouncement by the husband, where the menstrual period cannot be ascertained due to a woman's passing her age or not attaining the age of menstrual cycle. In case the wife is pregnant at the time of pronouncement of a divorce, the waiting period becomes complete after birth of the child or occurrence of a miscarriage. This fact is explained in chapter 65, verse 4 of Quran in the following words. The waiting period of those who are pregnant will be until they deliver their burden. God makes things easy for those who are mindful of Him. So it is clear that if divorce is pronounced during the pregnancy of the wife, the waiting period terminates at the birth of the child or miscarriage, whichever occurs first. During this period, the husband has the option to revoke divorce before the birth of the child if he wants to take back his wife. This fact is reiterated in chapter 2, verse 228 of Quran in the following words. Divorced women must wait for 3 monthly periods before remarrying And if they really believe in God and the last day, it is not lawful for them to conceal what God has created in their wombs. Their husbands would do better to take them back during this period, provided they wish to put things right. In the light of wisdom provided by this verse, it is clear that a divorce after its pronouncement becomes final after the expiry of 3 months. Similarly, if the wife is pregnant, the maturity period completes after child's birth. The wife must disclose her pregnancy to the husband so that he can take the right decision under the circumstances. God commands that it is better for husbands to revoke the divorce in such a situation if they wish to put things right. This verse also proves that divorce is not an approved act in the sight of God unless it has happened in extreme circumstances where a reconciliation between spouses is not possible. Since the right of revoking a divorce within 3 months period of its occurrence is allowed by God, therefore a question may arise in the mind of that what are the rights and obligations of spouses within this period? The answer to this question is provided in chapter 2 verse 229 of Koran in the following words. It is not lawful for you to take back anything that you have given her except where both fear that they cannot maintain marriage within the bounds set by God. This verse makes it clear that a husband is not allowed to take back anything, say dower or a gift he has given to his wife after pronouncing a divorce. God does not approve any such act on the part of husband. Besides, there may be a possibility that both the spouses may reconcile within the 3 months period of pronouncing the divorce and may restart their relationship as husband and wife. A question that is often asked by people is whether it is permissible to remarry the same wife after a divorce. If yes, what are the conditions that must be fulfilled to remarry same wife after a divorce? The answer to this question is provided in chapter 2 verse 229 of Quran in the following words. Divorce can happen twice and then wives either be kept on in an acceptable manner or released in a good way. This verse makes it clear that a revocable divorce can happen only twice between the spouses, so both of them can remarry without any intervening marriage in the same manner as they married earlier, if they so wish. This means that both husband and wife must have the intention to remarry each other, and the husband must pay fresh dower to wife as consideration for second marriage with the same wife. The pronouncement of divorce on third occasion is always irrevocable in the sight of God, implying that now husband and wife cannot remarry without an intervening marriage that has ended with a divorce from the second husband. Another important point to bear in mind is that the phrase divorce can happen twice implies divorce occurred at two different occasions. This is logical due to the fact that if a husband on one occasion divorces his wife by pronouncing the word divorce 2 times, while another husband in a heat of emotions pronounces the word divorce say 5 times, the divorce has happened only on one occasion. So after each divorce, regardless of the fact how many numbers of times the word divorce was pronounced, only one divorce will take place, and the waiting period of 3 months for reconciliation or remarrying will start from the pronouncement of divorce. Once this time period is over and the husband has not taken back his wife, one divorce will be complete. Now, if the husband wants to remarry the same wife, he will have to pay fresh dower like a new marriage. After this, he still has one more chance of divorcing the same wife and remarrying her without an intervening marriage. Islam is a religion based on equity and fair dealing. So it does not compel a wife to continue a marriage where she is no more interested in being wife of that person due to any reason. So she is allowed to seek divorce from the husband on payment of some consideration. This is called the right of khula. The right of wife to seek divorce is explained in chapter 2, verse 229 in the following words. If you suspect that the couple may not be able to do this, then there will be no blame on either of them if the woman opts to give something for her release. These are the bounds set by God. Do not overstep them. It is those who overstep God's bounds who are doing wrong. This verse makes it clear that even if a husband is still entrusted to keep a wife, but she is not entrusted due to incompatibility with that husband, she is allowed to seek divorce from the husband on the payment of something for her release from marriage. The something may include a return of dower amount to husband or any other sum of money or thing that can be afforded by a wife for her release. Then the husband must divorce her, and he is not allowed by God to keep that wife against her wish. A related question may be that what will be the consequences if a husband avoids sexual intercourse with his wife under a vow, also called a law? The answer to this question is provided in chapter 2, verse 226 of Koran in the following words. For those who swear that they will not approach their wives, there shall be a waiting period of 4 months. If they go back, remember, God will be most forgiving and merciful. This verse throws light on a situation where a husband takes a vow that he will not have sexual intercourse with his wife for a certain time period. Verse 226 commands that the maximum time period for such a vow is 4 months. After the expiry of 4 months, the husband has two options, either to reconcile with his wife or divorce her. In the light of wisdom provided by this verse, it is clear that a husband cannot avoid sexual intercourse under a vow for more than 4 months. If he does it, he is guilty of sin in the sight of God, and wife has the right to seek divorce after the expiry of 4 months. People often ask the question, what are the rights and obligations of the spouses once a divorce has been pronounced by the husband? The answer to this question is explained in several verses of Quran. Let us examine those verses for clear understanding on this issue. Chapter 2, verse 231 of Quran reads, when you divorce women and they have reached their set time, then either keep or release them in a fair manner. Do not hold on to them with intent to harm them and commit aggression. Anyone who does this wrongs himself. This verse makes it clear that within 3 months of pronouncement of first or second divorce, the husband may either retain the wife if he is willing to keep her in that relationship or release her in a fair manner. The term fair manner implies without any prejudice. For example, the husband is not allowed to resort to character assassination of wife or force us to pay back the amount of dower, etc. All such acts negate fair treatment and they are disapproved by God. In continuation to the commands of verse 231, verse 232 further explains the rights and obligations of the spouses in the following words. It reads, when you divorce women and they have reached their set time, do not prevent them from remarrying their husbands if they both agree to do so in a fair manner. Let those of you who believe in God and the last day take this to heart. That is more wholesome and purer for you. God knows and you do not. The crux of this verse is that if the spouses, after pronouncement of first and second divorce, agree to remarry with good intent, then nobody should stop them from doing it. It is a common observation that in a divorce situation, close relatives or friends try to obstruct any patch-up between the spouses for vested interest. God commands that any such move on the part of any person is a sin, and he or she must desist from its commission. On another occasion, chapter 65, verse 2 of Quran commands, when they have completed their appointed term, either keep them honorably or part with them honorably. Call two just witnesses from your people and establish witness for the sake of God. This verse reiterates the fact that after a divorce, the husband may either retain his wife if he wants to continue that relationship, or he may release her so that she may marry some other person. This verse also commands that any such arrangement must be done in the presence of two witnesses to avoid any dispute in future. Chapter 65, verses 6 and 7 highlight the rights of a divorced wife relating to food and lodging in the following words. House the wives you are divorcing according to your means. wherever you house yourselves, and do not harass them so as to make their lives difficult. And let the wealthy man spend according to his wealth, but let him whose provision is restricted spend according to what God has given him. God does not burden any soul with more than he has given it. After hardship, God will bring ease. These verses make it clear that husband is bound to provide food and lodging to the divorced wife during the divorce period of 3 months according to his means. He is not allowed to expel wife from his home. This is based on the wisdom that the probability of reconciliation between the spouses always exists, and if they are living together during the divorce period, there is a greater chance that they may reconcile for good. Another related question is, who is responsible to provide for the maintenance and food of infants in a divorce situation? The answer to this question is provided in chapter 2, verse 233 of Koran in the following words. It reads, "Mothers suckle their children for 2 whole years if they wish to complete the term, and clothing and maintenance must be borne by the father in a fair manner. No one should be burdened with more than they can bear. No mother shall be made to suffer harm on account of her child, nor any father on account of his. The same duty is incumbent on the father's heir. If by mutual consent and consultation the couple wish to wean the child, they will not be blamed, nor will there be any blame if you wish to engage a wet nurse, provided you pay as agreed in a fair manner. Be mindful of God, knowing that He sees everything you do." So this verse makes it clear that an infant must be suckled for 2 years. If the divorced mother is willing to suckle her infant, then the husband, that is father of the infant, must provide for the clothing and maintenance of the divorced wife according to his means. If the husband has died in the meantime, this duty of providing maintenance to the wife must be performed by his heir. Similarly, if both the spouses agree that the infant may be weaned by another lady, then the father must pay for it, along with providing maintenance to the wife. This command is reinforced in a different manner in chapter 65, verse 6 of Quran in the following words. It reads, "House the wives you are divorcing according to your means, wherever you house yourselves, and do not harass them so as to make their lives difficult. If they are pregnant, maintain them until they are delivered of their burdens. If they suckle your infants, pay them for it. Consult together in a good way. If you make difficulties for one another, another woman may suckle the child for the father." This verse reinforces the obligation of the husband to provide food and lodging to the divorced wife. It also reiterates the command that the husband must continue this arrangement during the pregnancy term of the divorced wife. He is further directed to pay his divorced wife if she suckles their infant. Finally, it is also allowed to arrange another woman to suckle the child if the spouses so agree. Such liberal provisions for a divorced wife do not exist even in the so-called civilized countries of 21st century that were granted to women 1500 years ago by Islam. It may be an eye-opener for critics of Islam. People may be interested to know about the waiting period that a widow must observe after her husband's death before remarrying. The answer to this question is provided in chapter 2, verse 234 of the Quran in the following words. "If any of you die and leave widows, the widows should wait for 4 months and 10 nights before remarrying. When they have completed this set time, you will not be blamed for anything they may reasonably choose to do with themselves. God is fully aware of what you do." In the light of command of this verse, the waiting period for a widow is 4 months and 10 nights. Once this period is over, she is at liberty to remarry another man of her choice if she so wishes. So Islam is a pragmatic religion that understands human needs and allows a woman to remarry after her husband's death. Many other religions shun this practice even in the 21st century and prohibit a woman from remarrying after her husband's death. Islam is a liberal religion that confers such rights upon women. This may be an eye-opener for critics of Islam and champions of women's rights. People may also be interested to know whether it is lawful for a man to propose a divorced woman during her period of divorce. The answer to this question is provided in chapter 2, verse 235 of Quran in the following words. It reads, "You will not be blamed whether you give a hint that you wish to marry these women or keep it to yourself. God knows that you intend to propose to them. Do not make a secret arrangement with them. Speak to them honorably, and do not confirm the marriage tie until the prescribed period reaches its end. Remember that God knows what is in your souls, so be mindful of Him. Remember that God is most forgiving and forbearing." God commands in this verse that it is not a sin on the part of a man to wish or propose a divorced woman for marriage during the time her divorce period of 3 months is going on. However, he must wait for the completion of 3 months prescribed period before confirming the marriage proposal. This is obligatory. Besides, a man should do nothing in secret to allure the divorced woman for any illicit purpose. People may also be interested to know that whether a man can divorce a woman before consummating a marriage. At times, it does happen that immediately after marriage and before its consummation, the payment of bride gift has been fixed, the husband may decide to divorce a wife. Then what rights and obligations of spouses may ensue? The answer to this question is explained in chapter 2, verse 236 of Quran and following words. It reads, "You will not be blamed if you divorce women when you have not yet consummated the marriage or fixed a bride gift for them. But make fair provision for them, the rich according to his means and the poor according to his. This is a duty for those who do good." This verse of Quran confirms that a man is allowed to divorce a woman before the marriage is consummated and a bride gift is fixed. But in such a situation, God commands that the man must make a fair provision for the bride according to his means. This command of God is based on the fact that marriage is a very important act in the sight of God, and although it is not consummated, God still commands that the woman must not suffer, at least financially, due to this act of man. This is another great example of rights of women that are available in Islam, not matched by any other religion of the world. On another occasion, Quran guides mankind about a situation where the divorce has taken place before the consummation of marriage, but after fixing the bride gift. Chapter 2, verse 237 of Quran reads, "If you divorce wives before consummating the marriage, but after fixing a bride gift for them, then give them half of what you had previously fixed, unless they waive their right or unless the one who holds the marriage tie waives his right. Waiving your right is nearer to godliness, so do not forget to be generous towards one another. God sees what you do." This verse makes it clear that in a situation where the divorce takes place before consummation, but after fixing the bride gift, the husband must pay at least half of the agreed amount. The husband may even pay the full amount of the bride gift if he so wishes, because it is a nobler act in the sight of God, unless the wife waives her right of getting the bride gift. So, Islam makes very generous provisions for a divorced woman that are not available in any other religion of the world. People may be interested to know what provisions Islam makes for a widow and a divorced wife. The answer to this question is provided in chapter 2, verses 240 and 241 of Quran in the following words. It reads, "If any of you die and leave widows, make a bequest for them, a year's maintenance, and no expulsion from their homes for that time. But if they leave of their own accord, you will not be blamed for what they may reasonably choose to do with themselves. God is almighty and wise." Divorced women shall also have such maintenance as is considered fair. This is a duty for those who are mindful of God. These verses make it clear that a man must make a bequest for his widow, including at least a year's maintenance and no expulsion from home. This is over and above her right of inheritance. Similarly, the deceased husband must also make a fair provision for a divorced wife who is passing through her divorce period and the husband dies. Such provisions for women are unparalleled when compared with any other religion. At times, it may happen that a husband may utter the words that his wife is like his mother, implying that he is not interested in maintaining any spousal relationship with her. However, if he later realizes his folly, what course of action is available to him? The answer to this question is provided in chapter 58, verses 2 to 4 in the following words. Even if any of you say to their wives, "You are to me like my mother's back," they are not their mothers. Their only mothers are those who gave birth to them. What they say is certainly blameworthy and false, but God is pardoning and forgiving. Those of you who say such a thing to their wives, then go back on what they have said, must free a slave before the couple may touch one another again. This is what you are commanded to do, and God is fully aware of what you do. But anyone who does not have the means should fast continuously for 2 months before they touch each other. And anyone unable to do this should feed 60 needy people. This is so that you may have faith in God and His messenger. These are the bounds set by God. Grievous torment awaits those who ignore them. In the light of wisdom provided by these verses, it is clear that a man should never utter words implying that his wife is a mother to her. Utterance of such words is a heinous sin in the sight of God. However, if the man later repents and wants to continue his marital relationship, God is merciful. But the man must pay atonement for his sin. The atonement for this sin is either freeing a slave, or observing 60 fasts, or feeding 60 poor persons. These grave atonements make it clear that utterance of such words that may blot the sanctity of marriage relationship are grave sins in the sight of God, and one must avoid any such words. Now I summarize the key points discussed in this monologue for reinforcement purpose. These include: 1. A divorce can only happen twice. The husband can always remarry his wife during this period without any intervening marriage. 2. If the husband pronounces a divorce on third occasion, he cannot remarry the same wife unless she has married another man and he has divorced her. 3. A written or oral mode of divorce does not affect the status of divorce in the sight of God. 4. A divorce will become final after 3 menstrual cycles, or 3 months, or delivery of the child by wife, as the case may be. 5. If a husband takes a vow not to have sexual intercourse with his wife, he must reconcile within 4 months, otherwise the wife can seek divorce on this account. 6. If a husband compares his wife like the back of his mother, he must take back his words and offer atonement for this act, or a wife may seek divorce on this account. 7. In any case of divorce, the husband must treat his wife with fairness and generously provide for her food, lodging, and maintenance during the currency of a divorce. I conclude my monologue on divorce with a prayer that Allah Almighty may bless this effort. Please do subscribe and share my channel for updates. It's absolutely free. Finally, do ask me questions to alleviate your concern about any related issue discussed in this monologue. Post your question in the comment section on my YouTube channel for a quick reply.